What is up, wrestling fans? It is that time of the week for the FLZ Wrestling Team to talk all things pro wrestling and call it right down the middle. That's right, it's time for this week's edition of 607 TWS, the wrestling show, powered by FanlightZone.com. Of course, I am your host. My name is Rich. Joining me in the co-pilot's chair, as she does, I used to say each and every week, but 99% of the weeks.
Oh, geez, you're not gonna let that go.
She is the guru of cosplay. She is the hunter of the Pokemans because she's got to catch them all. And most importantly for this show, she is a pro grappling connoisseur. She is the first lady of Fanlight Zone. It is the one and only Miss Sammy. How are you this week?
You're just not gonna let that go. You know, I go and do
Never.
a good deed. I'm volunteering, and you just got to drop that elbow right on me. Love it. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. And I will say this, no good deed goes unpunished. And that is especially true here at 607 TWS. So there's that. And speaking of no good deed goes unpunished, right before I went on air, peek behind the curtain for the podcast that I've done now for we're in our 8th year, the 3FN podcast, talking movies. If you want to go check it out, it is adult humor. It's a little whatever. I want to throw this out there. I just got notification that my son has become a patron. So now I'm real nervous about what he's going to find out listening to the things that we talk on Patreon, because we get a little out there. So I just had to put my phone on Do Not Disturb because I forgot to do that beforehand, because I got that message and went, oh boy, he's going to learn some things. Oh, well. I hope it's not all bad.
I mean, my family doesn't follow me on social media, and that's for the best.
That's probably for the best. But anyways, with that, and by the way, Patreon, so it's raw, uncut, it's crazy. So there's that. But I'm still excited. It's still a great week, and it's a great week to be a pro wrestling fan, because we have a lot to talk about later. We are going to break down AEW Redemption, which goes down this upcoming Sunday. We're going to preview that full show. We're going to talk a little bit about 2 shows that hit this week on major streaming services, and then of course, we're also going to talk about the arrival of the worst kept secret in all of pro wrestling, as we talked about weeks ago. And last but not least, of course, we'll open the show recapping Saturday night's main event, which went down this past Saturday to be exact, from the Mecca of pro wrestling, that of course, Madison Square Garden in New York City. But before we dump into there, I would like to implore everybody to head on over to FanlightZone.com, because that is the place that powers this and everything else. Make sure while you're there, you check out the awesome comic book reviews we have out. Nobody does New Comic Book Day like Fanlight Zone, and I mean nobody. And of course, follow us on all those wonderful social medias. You can find all those links at FanlightZone.com as well. And if you are watching us on X and Twitch, where we are also live when we do live shows, that's awesome. Make sure you're following us there. But then head on over to YouTube, and if you're already there, you've got part of it done, and make sure you smash that subscribe button, click the bell icon for notifications so you know whenever we go live or a new video gets put up, and hit that thumbs up to help us wrestle the algorithm and continue to grow. And by the way, if you are checking us out, we've had an influx of new subscribers and viewers, due to mostly because of our wonderful interview. Of course, we do thank all of you for watching. Hopefully you're checking out the wrestling content as well as the comic book content, because I mean, we just do one wrestling show just because we like to have fun in the pro wrestling world, as we're all fans. But after that Todd McFarlane interview. So hopefully you enjoyed that. And I know you're enjoying some of those other great interviews. And trust me, we got even more comic book content on the way. As a matter of fact, I can't say what it is yet, but I can tell you this is Thursday night. It's live. There is a brand new interview that drops tomorrow. So Friday. So if you're watching this live, keep your eyes posted tomorrow. I've just been sworn to secrecy until the video comes out, or at least until the advertisement for the video comes out, but whatever. What can I say? You know, I'm a shill baby shill. That's what we do here at Fanlight Zone. That's what we do in pro wrestling. That's what we do in general. But now that we've gone past the shilling, now that we've gone past me being shook of what my son may or may not find out when he hears his dad talking about crazy stuff on Patreon on my wildly adult podcast that he already listens to, let's dive right in. Let's get talking about what we came for, and that is pro grappling. And let's talk about what went down this past Saturday from Madison Square Garden. That's right, it was Saturday night's main event. Of course, if you are in the chat, we want to hear your opinions as well as we go through the card. And let's kick it off and talk some Saturday night's main event, shall we, Miss Sammy?
Let's go.
All right, starting off, and I didn't get to see this, but obviously most people didn't. It was the pre-show match. It was a dark match. I do think that there's some stuff out there on YouTube. Trick Williams would defeat the Laredo Kid from Triple A in 7 minutes and 15 seconds. Cool to see Laredo Kid in Madison Square Garden. Big fan, and of course, you know, we love us some Trick Willie here on 607 TWS. Let's move over to the opening contest of Saturday night's main event, and it was for the WWE Women's Tag Team Championships. Your champions, Paige and Brie Bella, defending against Fatal Influence, Laney Reed and Phelan Henley, with JC Jane in their corner. This match, also like the pre-show match, got 7 minutes and 15 seconds. However, at the end of the day, your winner and new WWE Women's Tag Team Champions, Fatal Influence. I know we were all hoping the Fatal Influence would win. Not that we hate Brie Bella or Paige, but we were just thinking, hey, it's time to get some of that young blood, if you will, into the hunt. Miss Sammy, how are you feeling that we were right and Fatal Influence is your new women's tag team champions in World Wrestling Entertainment?
Yeah, I don't think anyone predicted to go down the way that it did. You know, we like to make our predictions on match finishes and stuff. You being a former booker and me being someone who just, you know, likes to try and be right. But at the end of the day, I think it's the right call. I think there's so much talent within WWE, especially on the women's side. It's time to get Paige and both Bellas really working some solid singles programs. And naturally, I think they'll work a program against each other first, which could be fun, but ultimately there are so many new faces there. I hope they wrap that up quickly and go out there and do stuff. And good for Fatal Influence. They've been on the main roster for a little while now, and this is their first big cup of coffee, and I hope they enjoy it.
A cup of coffee in the big time. There it is. Listen, I gotta say this. I thought this was great. It was a great call. I don't care how we get there for, and I don't like saying this.
Sometimes we do. Sometimes we do.
Well, yeah, there's times. In this case, it wasn't bad. It might have not been like is quote unquote as sexy as I would have liked it to been. But at the same time, hey, you got what we needed to get done. You have, and this is no disrespect, you have the legacy acts and Brie Bella and Paige now being able to move on. And as you point out, whether probably go into a program against each other, but you know what? They're going to also be able to go into some programs. I know they're not wrestling full time, but they're going to be able to go into some programs where they can really like give a shine to some of the younger talent, some of the talent, the up and coming talent, because yeah, maybe, the argument would be from the internet, maybe Paige isn't going to wrestle another 5-star match or Brie Bella's not going to wrestle another 5-star match. We can't guarantee that, but I'm just saying what the, speculation is. However, you don't really need to. That rub of being the star that you are, going in there with an up and comer can really make or break a new superstar. And I think that that's what you're going to see from the legacy, the elder stateswomen, if you will. And I dig that. And then, of course, we've talked about the WWE Women's Tag Team division as actually being good. And you now have champions who are going to be able to defend the belts. It's going to elevate them. It's going to elevate the belts. And I think that it's going to lead to some really, really great matches. So I think this was a big bucket of win across the board for everybody in this match. Next up is the match that we are all waiting for. New York was waiting for, because the hero, if Jalen Brunson is the king of New York after the New York Knicks, my New York Knicks as a fan, won the NBA championship, which I will not let anybody forget. That means the Prince of New York was the man who won Kirsten Knicks and made it popular. And trust me, Madison Square Garden definitely let him know their appreciation. Danhausen taking on JD McDonough of the Judgment Day. And, we all speculated who Danhausen was going to have in the corner. Just throwing it out there, 11 minutes, 35 seconds, Danhausen was victorious. I don't think that they had the balls to not have Danhausen win in the Garden. I think there would have been a full-scale riot. However, hear me out here. We were all wrong. I mean, we were all right in a way that we said it would probably be somebody from the New York Knicks, but none of us had the big cat coming out there. Karl Anthony Towns catching Danhausen's back and giving some amazing choke slams. I would like to throw out the form and the measure on him. I didn't know how much of a wrestling fan Cat was before any of this, so I didn't know if this was something he wanted to do. But obviously, he put work in because those choke slams looked fantastic. Of course, you have to give credit to JD McDonough and Dominic Mysterio as well. But I mean, the form was still there. It looked tremendous. But your thoughts on the hero of New York, Danhausen, continuing to be the hero of New York, and one of the 2026 NBA champion New York Knicks, Karl Anthony Towns, delivering some massive choke slams with Sammy.
So obviously Danhausen had to win. Danhausen's one of the top stars in the WWE, top merch mover, and in New York with everything. He has literally cemented his legacy in New York. He'll never have to pay for a drink in New York again, ever. And it's pretty
a meal,
wild.
A drink, a show,
right?
Anything.
Right? You'll see him in the future sitting at tables with Derek Jeter and everyone else, and it's like, yeah, I'm up here too for just being a guy that showed up on ESPN and cursed Stephen A. Smith and everyone else, like whatever. But one thing that I did see, and this is about the show overall and not just this match, there was some blowback from outside of New York where people were talking about, oh, once again, WWE doing celebrity involvement. This is doing celebrity involvement correctly. This is something that everybody in that area wanted. When you did it at WrestleMania, it wasn't what you wanted. It was very clear. This is doing it correctly. And I hope WWE recognizes that and leans into that. There are ways to do big time celebrity crossover involvement and make it really eventful, memorable, and just very just good moments, and this was it. So I'm glad they've kind of found their mojo there. We'll see if that continues going forward. But everything about this was perfect. And you're right. The form on the Cat doing two really good choke slams, just and obviously the selling of it side of it, but just his form doing it was perfect, like spot on.
I was a big fan. Cat getting it done. Let's move on next to a singles grudge match, if you will, where Lyra Valkyria would defeat the role model Bayley in 10 minutes and 30 seconds. I think we were kind of all hoping maybe Bayley would win. I'm not a huge fan of the new Lyra gimmick. I feel like it's Tatum Paxley light, and we already have a Tatum Paxley who does it phenomenally well. That's just my opinion. I'm not saying anything against Lyra because I think she's a tremendous wrestler, but I do want to point out that she doesn't need to do Tatum Paxley's gimmick, in my opinion. I was fine with this. More smoke to the fire that some people think that Bayley may be exiting the company. Although at Fanatics Fest, she was getting she made a surprise appearance, and AJ Lee would sit on her lap for an entire spot during Fanatics Fest, which was also going down that same weekend. Miss Sammy, your thoughts on the women's match, and obviously we could speculate all day long, but where do you think Bayley goes from here?
I mean, if this is the end of Bayley's WWE run, I mean, it's kind of wrapped up in a nice little bow. I mean, what else does she really have to do there? I guess main event WrestleMania would be like the last thing. And I'm sorry at this point, Bayley. I don't think they would give you the opportunity. Not that you're not worthy of it. I just don't think you would get the opportunity. And even then, is that even something that she really wants? I mean, not everyone is CM Punk where that's exactly what you want. Either way, the match was good. I actually really enjoyed it. I thought it was a nice bout of women's wrestling. I haven't bought into Lyra's character yet, but it's new for her. It's something she could grow into. Hopefully she does kind of differentiate it from the Tatum Paxley side of things and such. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like I said, I don't want to crap it. I think Lyra is such a talent. I think she's definitely going to be a future world champion. I know she was already Intercontinental champion. But
she can't
I don't know.
For that belt, can she? Can she? I don't know.
The Intercontinental title? I think she can now. I think it was only when Becky held it. I don't think that they had it wasn't one of the overbearing ones like the Hangman Adam Page not being able to challenge for the AEW World Championship, right?
Or Cody Rhodes. He can't either.
Or Cody Rhodes still cannot compete for the AEW World Championship. We've got a few in AEW camp. That brings us to actually, before we talk about the main event, let's talk about another big spot for New York and the New York Knicks as the tribal chief, the big dog, the WWE World Heavyweight Champion Roman Reigns came to the ring with the 2025-2026 NBA champion from the New York Knicks, of course. the king of New York, the talk of the town, the toast of the town, another person who will never buy another meal, drink, show, or anything in the city or state of New York, if I might add. Of course, I'm talking about Jalen Brunson, who recently had some hand surgery. So pretty, after postseason there. We had a nice little segment. We got the crowd to acknowledge him. And then we got Tyrese Halliburton, one of the biggest heels, as you know. I always complain about him making the surprise appearance, and of course Seth Rollins attacking Roman Reigns, but Jalen Brunson with a steel chair making the save for the tribal chief. A nice little segment there. I mean, you don't have to do too much more to put over Seth versus Roman. It is what it is. That's going down obviously a week from this upcoming weekend. So people have heard the week after Redemption. So we'll be talking about that next week, right? What were your thoughts on the things? Once again, I'm fine with the fan service as a New York Knicks fan. I know this was done for the Knicks fans. I know this was done for the crowd in Madison Square Garden. They did mix in a little bit of more, because of the Seth Roman situation going into SummerSlam. But once again, I'm going to be completely biased, as you know, Sammy. So what was your thoughts on this whole segment?
I thought that was the only part of this segment that worked. What was the Knicks, portion of it? We've talked about it before, and we've talked about it offline, and we may even touch on it again tonight, or we certainly will next week. The Seth Roman stuff's kind of flat. It's really not doing it for me. It's not really doing it for a large part of the audience, and it just kind of continued here, and it's kind of hidden a little bit because of the Knicks and the fanfare around it, which is rightfully so. That was a good way, to show respect to their home. They're in Madison Square Garden and they are the champions and such. So all that was good, but it was really a lot of lipstick on a pig because that feud is just really flat.
True that, yo. True that. All right, let's talk about the main event of the evening. It was a tag team extravaganza where if the team of Gunther and Sami Zayn were to win, they would be added to the undisputed WWE Championship match at SummerSlam. So we had the team of Gunther and Sami Zayn taking on the undisputed WWE Champion CM Punk and QB1, the American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes. And when we previewed this, we even said that there was going to be an issue when they made the stipulation, because when we previewed this, the stipulation wasn't set yet. It was made the next night on SmackDown, but we had prepared for saying, hey, if they make a stipulation for this match, everything changes. And sure enough, it did. I think if there's no stipulation, you probably have Gunther and Sami Zayn win. But since there was a stipulation and you want the one-on-one match, and I don't blame them, you're not going to get that win. I will say this: I thought the booking for this match was done very well. We didn't get what we thought we were going to get. With the turn, there was a little friction, but nothing great until after the match. And I thought that's where it shined. After the match, there was a accidental Cody Rhodes getting hit in the face with the strap of the belt when CM Punk was putting it over his shoulder, or at least CM Punk claims it's an accident. Cody Rhodes doesn't think as much. This bled over to Fanatics Fest, where they were doing a SummerSlam, kickoff, if you will, a hype show for that. And we got a really great confrontation at Fanatics Fest. It's all over the YouTubes and everything else between Cody and CM Punk, where, basically CM Punk said that wasn't on purpose. I can do it on purpose, but I did it. And Cody taking offense to him calling him brother, because I'm not your brother. And of course, Punk picking right up on that and then mocking him and calling him little brother, because why wouldn't you, right? Very much heating up in this championship match. Miss Sammy, we'll start off. I want to put the whole picture there, but let's start off with the tag team match. What did you think of the tag team main event, the Saturday's main event? And then follow that with, how do you think this Punk Rhodes feud is going currently?
So I thought the match was really solid. I think the way that it played out made a lot of sense, and everyone was able to get in there. They were able to shine a little bit. It was actually a pretty surprisingly good tag team style main event. So I did like that. It'll be interesting to see where Sami Zayn really goes through from here and all this. He seems to be the odd one out, which kind of stinks after coming off a short title reign and, is not necessarily a face, but is a fan favorite. So hopefully he'll get going into something good quickly. We're getting Nick Aldis we're getting Nick Aldis back in the ring. I think that's something we haven't even touched on yet. That's a big part of this match and going forward. So that's pretty cool.
I
Which
mean,
means
we touched on it a
maybe,
lot because we've been
yeah.
speculating about this way too long and hoping for it way too long. So I will say that, but you're right. We do have it official now.
But that also, is he gonna just do one and done? Is he potentially going to? Is there potentially a new, general manager going to end up on SmackDown? Which, don't get me wrong, it's not that all this has been a bad one, but maybe it is time to kind of fresh that up. Both those guys have been in those positions for a long time, both Raw and SmackDown. So that's an interesting wrinkle. So that's the match. Now you got to get into the Punk and Cody things. Punk's been back, what, 2 weeks? He's won the title and he's already got himself right at the top of the WWE universe again, being like the most interesting. He's the most interesting man in the world, apparently. Like, that's just what he is. And
stay thirsty, my friends.
pretty much the belt flip over the shoulder and hit him. That was good. I don't know if you caught the video that was posted and then deleted of the backstage segment where Punk's doing an interview and Cody interrupts it, and there's a bit of a scuffle and other people jump in. I think Trick Williams jumped in that to help break it up, to set that atmosphere of like, hey, this is kind of turning into something real here. So once again, it shows why Punk is as good as he is. He is as advertised. He's been money since he's been in WWE. And maybe this is finally the most interesting feud Cody has done since he won the belt, since he finished the story.
I agree.
It's not even a long one yet.
I also did see the removed clip because obviously they're trying to, and listen, we've been talking about this for a few years now. One of the things that WWE has done very well in all the things that they haven't has been these oopsie, caught you on social media. Oopsie, so-and-so caught something that you weren't supposed to see. So they act like you weren't supposed to see it when you know damn well that you were. But, but it's been good. They do a good job of that.
I think they got away from it for a little while. I think they got away from it from a little while, and it was kind of like, that really worked. You should do a little more of that. Not all the time, not for everyone, but
that's what I was going to say. That's where I actually think that they did a good job, because I think that they did get away from it on purpose. Because if you beat something into the ground, you know what I mean? It's you can't, you know what I mean? So I think that's why it's still fresh.
Pretty soon it's all going to be on Club WWE, so you're going to have to go there to see it anyway. Anyway.
But yeah, I digress. Which it is what it is. I have no interest, but we're looking at it like this. The match was good. I dug the match. It did what it needed to do. The post stuff has done really what it needed to do. I would argue that the night 2 main event should probably be Punk versus Cody.
Yeah.
If that's not the night 2, if they decide it's going to be Seth and Roman, I think they're going to have a big mistake on their hands, because that means the night 1 main event is going to just dominate, because I don't think that Roman Seth 1,999,000 is going to draw the attention that Cody versus Punk is right now. And just look, I'm just checking temps in the room. And yeah, I think that would be a mistake. I don't want to get in the weeds too much. That's why I want to go in, because we're going to talk obviously next week about SummerSlam. But yeah, Nick Aldis being in the ring, I think that this is, I'm going to say this about that. I think it's going to be a tester. I think it's going to depend on how he feels coming out of the match and how the crowd reacts. So if the crowd reacts and they're like, oh crap, here's the national treasure, Nick Aldis, and he's every bit what we know he can be, I think you might see him more. And it's also, I think at the end of the day, going to go how he feels, because there's been a reason why he hasn't wrestled, and it's not been publicly known,
right,
to us, to anybody. And that's fine. That's between him and the brass. It could just be, hey, we didn't hire you for a wrestling spot. It could be nagging injuries. It could be he's thought about hanging them up. We don't know. He's kept himself in great shape. I know he can go. I guarantee that Nick Aldis versus Gunther at SummerSlam, no matter how it goes, is going to be a tremendous match, because if it's going to be Nick Aldis' last match, you bet your ass he's going to leave it in the ring, and Gunther's going to come and show. And if it is one of those cases where if he gets out there and it's going to lead to something more, you bet your ass that Nick Aldis is going to bring the A game, because he's going to want to lead to more. So there's that, right? So I don't want to get too more in the weeds of that, because we obviously have a big show, and we'll be talking more next week about it. Before we switch gears to the next graphic, we got some some side notes here. This week, the 2 big things dropped. We got the first, well, it's been out for a couple weeks now. Dark Side of the Ring is back. So there's a couple episodes of that out right now. And then, of course, Unreal just dropped this past week. The new season of Unreal on Netflix. Go check them both out. We will not be talking about them in their entirety yet because I've not found the time to catch up on either one of them. And also there is a lot that we have to talk about. So a couple weeks from now, we'll probably dive into both shows, which Dark Side of the Ring will probably be further into the season, which is good because we can talk about a chunk of them. And then we can talk about Unreal as a whole. It's going to give people some time to sink in because we have a couple big weeks and I don't want to take away from the shows, obviously, at hand. So that's where we are with that. But we both support both shows. We both enjoy both shows.
Unreal
so trust me, I will be watching.
Yeah, Unreal is here to stay, everyone. I mean, if you were not a fan of it, you don't want to watch it, that's fine. But it is clear that it is here to stay.
Yeah, the only thing I caught, and it was out of context, so I don't want to speak too much on it, was the line about Braun Breaker winning the Royal Rumble and being said that, oh, we don't want to force people down people's throats. And then you're like, but Roman Reigns won the Royal Rumble. And the 11th time he was main evented a WrestleMania. Granted, Roman Reigns' biggest draw in wrestling. I've said it before. I'll say it again. I can admit that. However, we also need to talk optically about can't make that comment about one person and then do the exact opposite.
Well, and it's not that Roman Reigns is not the biggest draw in wrestling right now, but there is a conversation to be had there about Roman Reigns' current state in WWE. But that will be something we talk about next week. So stay tuned.
Exactly. There you go. Stay tuned there. Now let's move along to something that is a better news. Worst kept secret in wrestling is now official as Mike Santana has made his official appearance in NXT. He has arrived. He is in NXT. Of course, shocking. I mean, I don't say shocking anybody because we all knew it was coming. But shockingly showing up at the end, staking now his claim to being in that main event title picture. Of course, with champion Big Tony D. So lots of matchups here, lots of good stuff. I know we knew and speculated. It's like I said, it's the worst kept secret. It's not like we called anything. Everybody knew. But now that it's official, Miss Sammy, what are your thoughts on Mike Santana? Santana. I went to say Santino Marella. Mike Santana.
That's actually still a question. Apparently, do we know he's going to be Mike Santana?
That's true. We don't know.
Once again, it was another debut without a name. I don't really like how WWE NXT has done this a couple of times now. And I get it. There is a level of performance, the WWE universe, the audience not watching other wrestling companies, other wrestling performances. So there is a huge dynamic about that, of someone showing up on Raw and SmackDown and people not knowing who they are, where they're from, or whatever. And that was one of the big fears with AJ Styles. Luckily, people did know who he was. But if you are going to debut someone, you got to have the name figured out. And in the case of Mike Santana, as someone who did appear on NXT multiple times, I think you got to keep the same name. I think you got to.
Well, it also boils down to it might not be their decision. So how that works is that some people do not want to license their name out because they would like to use it again. Right. So we know that's why certainly Kevin Steen using Kevin Owens is that Tyler Black as Seth Rollins. And he's been way open about that because he was like, if this didn't work, I could go back to be Tyler Black. If I sign over the name, I can't go back to be Tyler Black. I mean, the only time you really get out of it technically, but there's an asterisk, is if it's your real name.
Right.
But even then, there's still some licensing that gets stuck behind on that as well. You know what I mean? Obviously, some people would point to, well, Cody Rhodes could have used Rhodes, but Rhodes isn't his real last name. Right. His real last name is Runnels. So therefore, WWE owned the Rhodes name. That's why he just went by Cody at first. And then they let it lapse or actually just gave into it. Because in his case, you didn't actually need to say Cody Rhodes. Everybody knows who he is, right? So It wasn't really that big of a deal. But like in a case of so it could be when it's all said and done, it could be a Mike Santana call where maybe he doesn't want them to have the licensing to his name. I don't think it's going to matter. Like that's what happened recently with Mason Rook, obviously changing the name there. Evil no longer going by Evil. And some of it is the company saying, hey, we want you to do this. And some of it is actually the wrestlers, as we know. So I'm like this on it because it depends on whose decision it is,
Yes.
honestly, I'm excited still. I think it's another shot in the arm for NXT. NXT does have a great lineup. They have a great top, presentation right now. The main event scene is really strong. Adding him to that just makes it stronger. It also makes the undercard a little stronger as well, just because now you have room to showcase other people on the undercard. Like we've always discussed, you need that like 4 to 6 guys that are always vying at the top, and then to
Yes.
filter down, and then you just recycle, you bring new blood in, if you will, you know what I mean? And they didn't have the 4 to 6 guys. They had some guys that were being built up, which can now be properly built up. And now you have that solid 4 or 5 guys right now, in that main title picture. So you have time to build up some of the talent that may be on the precipice, but not quite there yet. You know what I mean? And I think this is a big bucket of win for NXT. I think it's a big bucket of win for Mike Santana, because he's going to get to go out there and prove that he deserves to possibly be on the main roster someday. I know a lot of people are asking already where Mike Santana's ceiling is. I will say this, and I'll go to you after. I think his ceiling, he is a motivated and very good worker. We saw what he could do with the big belt on him in TNA. He can rise to the occasion. If he can do all of those things in WWE, the ceiling is he could be world champion on the main roster. Not an issue. Once again, that ceiling is going to be determined by it. But I know he's going to show up and go to work because that's what he does. And so I think that's his real ceiling. He could be a main eventer in the future. No questions about it. We'll see if we get there. Once again, creative can sabotage that as well. We always bitch about that. But being fair, I think that the sky is the limit for Mike Santana in WWE. Your thoughts, Miss Sammy?
I think the sky is the limit as well. And yes, while creative can fail certain characters, the way he carries himself, just the way his personality and not just his wrestling personality, his own personality, they really do blend together in Mike Santana. And I don't see any way he's not in a main event scene within the next couple of years. I just don't see it. On the flip side of things, though, there is a little TNA talk in here as well, because obviously he left TNA. He was in their main event picture, but 90-day non-competes are up. So we'll see where those
I was going to say,
pop up.
You read my mind, because that's what the next talking point was, is that coinciding with this is that we are starting to see over the next couple of days the first of the 90-day no-compete clauses. By the way, I don't know if you caught this. Did you catch formerly known as Jinder Mahal talking about 90-day no-competes? I thought it was really cool.
No. What did the Jinder have to say?
So he took to social medias, and he's been doing this. He's been answering questions, which I think is very cool. So follow him on social media. The modern day Maharaja doing his thing. He basically said, listen, so we like to use the word 90-day no competes, but that's not what they truly are. So how WWE builds it in is they let you go 90 days. So when you get let go from WWE, there's a built-in in your contract. It is built in. But what they do is they agree that they will let you know 90 days before your last date. So technically, you still work for the company, which we've been talking about on this show for a while. When people are like, well, what do they do for those 90 days? And we've always been like, they get paid. Yeah, you still get paid your contracted rate. And technically, you could still work shows. But WWE pulls you from all the shows because they don't want you to be hot when you hit the ground. They don't want you to go, let's say, if you were somebody that's going to go to AEW, they don't want you going right from WWE television to AEW television, because that is bad for business, a bad business move, right? So what they do is they pull you from everything, but you still get paid for 90 days. So basically, the built-in thing is, hey, if we release you from your contract, there's a 90-day notice. So it's kind of an interesting thing. So I'm going to still call it 90-day non-compete, because I think that it's a better term. But really, in reality, what the built-in thing is, it's 90 days of being, it's built in your contract that when they release you, you have a 90-day window. So they're letting you know that, hey, you're being released. We are technically speaking, they could use you the whole time.
They could, in theory.
They just don't. But they still pay you. So you get your full pay amount for 90 days. And I think that's pretty cool, because you have 90 days. Because like think about it, a lot of the non-compete people that are coming up now had already booked, the ones that were going to book indie dates had already booked indie dates. They already booked convention appearances. They already booked the things that they could do, because they had 90 days to book these things. You know what I mean? They had a head start. And I think that's incredible. So that's part of the reason why I think it's good.
Right, because it's
But
it's
yes,
it's more like a 90-day non-appearance window, basically. Like
right.
you can set yourself up, you can do a lot of things. I don't think you're fully allowed to do contract negotiation because obviously you're still under contract, so you couldn't really
No.
openly negotiate with an AEW. But like you said, you can negotiate to work at a convention and stuff because that's not direct competition.
Mhm.
So you're right. It gives you a huge opportunity, and it really does give you a huge leg up because you can still work, and by work I mean you can still work out, you can still get in a ring and move around. You just can't get paid for it. You just can't get shown on any one show. But plenty of these guys are involved in smaller indie companies or wrestling schools. They can go work there because they can go work out there. You can't work the show, but you can go work out there. You can go hang out there during the day, and you can get your reps in, and you can be ready to go when 90 days are up. And we'll see where some of these guys land. There was some decent names on the list. Alistair Malachi Black certainly at the top of it. Motor City Machine Guns. There's some talent out there that's available, and TNA is looking for talent.
Zelina Vega, who looks like she's going to go by Zelena or however you say, because it's using an X instead of a Z. Smart move. Yeah, exactly. Smart move. Of course, the New Day, which we've been assuming is AEW bound, amongst other things. So, like, I think that this obviously we're going to be paying attention to this. It's nice to throw it out there in the ether what we think, but we're going to be seeing the appearance of talent. And for those people who might be going, but Rich, how did some of these people book indie dates if they are not allowed to wrestle for a company? Simple. If you notice, they didn't announce that they were in a wrestling match. They said appearing.
Right.
So it's the same difference as if you were to
Listen,
appear.
right? Do you really think these guys are honoring these 90-day windows completely? Like, do you really think so?
Well, I think you have to if you don't want to get sued. But
Well,
WWE is
yes,
also
but
not going to worry about an indie promotion. WWE is only going to worry if you go out there and you go to AEW. But once again,
well,
AEW is not going to book you for an appearance. AEW is going to want the contract before, so you can't do the contract negotiation.
yeah, but what I mean by that is like, is WWE really monitoring your phone calls and making sure you're not calling different promotions and stuff to set yourself up? I tend to doubt it. But if you did do something where you made an in-ring appearance somewhere, like we saw with oh, who was it why does his name escape me? I love him. Why does his name escape me? AEW. Um, wow, this is really bad. Jeez. He made an appearance on TV, and he was like, well, you might still be under your 90-day non-compete. So they had to pull him off TV for a little while, and then he came back.
Oh, Andrade.
Thank you.
Talking about Andrade.
I am. Well, I'm just too mesmerized by the rest of Andrade. So sorry.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it is what it is. But it gets, you got to put it this way. They don't mind people negotiating, because even if you negotiate with AEW, they don't mind. You just can't sign a contract. You just can't appear in a ring. And they do watch that. They know people are, because people hire agents. As soon as they leave, if they didn't already have an agent, they hire an agent. So therefore, they're gonna get book work, and they don't care when they book work and they're advertised for a convention or an indie show, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter to them. But if you advertise them for Dynamite, it'd be a little bit of a different story, because that's a direct competitor.
Well, if you pulled up an MLW or something, that would be, and got in the ring, that would probably be a problem.
True.
But
well, if you get in the ring, and also MLW causes that own problem for themselves, because they're famously their promoter sued the WWE, so you have that problem. Sometimes it backfires on you to litigate, because GCW booked some people ahead of their 90-day no competes. Karrion Kross was one of them. But once again, we know that they have a friendly relationship. But then again, GCW has a friendly relationship with both companies. Ironically enough, I mean, they've been using a lot. Like Hook's been on AEW or GCW shows.
They're just friendly people, I mean, there's a lot of violence there, but otherwise they're friendly.
Some would not say that, just so you know. But let's move along, because we have a huge thing to talk about. Last but certainly not least, and that, of course, that's what's going down this upcoming Sunday from the Bell Center in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. That's right, AEW Redemption. And this is going to be a happening. Of course, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, bell time for the main show, 7 p.m. Eastern for the 0 hour. Let's do a rundown of the card. We're going to go through and we're going to break it down, because there's some stuff here. Let's talk about, first and foremost, let's talk about the double chain tag team match. So this is chain match, but two people. And it is the Bang Bang Gang, Jay White and Juice Robinson, taking on the Dogs, David Finlay and Clark Connors. Of course, there's a lot of bad blood here. We just got Switchblade Jay White back. I don't know if I would have put him in a double chain match right away, but hey, that's that's not here nor there. But Miss Sam, you're in the hot seat first. Who do you think's leaving Montreal, the winner of the double chain tag team match?
I have to go with the Dogs here, and not because I don't like the Bang Bang Gang. I actually really do. And Jay White, a lot of popularity right now, coming back after a long hiatus. But if they don't, is there any sort of care for them? Like this has got to be like an act one of a thing, and I think the heels got to start it off with a win.
I am. You know what though? I'm going to go the other way. I think we're trying to strap the rocket ship to Jay White finally. Hopefully, he doesn't get injured during this match, because when he returned, we found out once again how over Jay White is. I've been a huge Jay White mark for a long time, so I think the Bang Bang Gang gets a win just because nothing against Juice Robinson. I think Juice Robinson is one of the most entertaining wrestlers in the world still. But I think that we're really going to see that rocket ship getting strapped to Jay White. He'll be in that main event picture very soon, as he should be.
As he should be. It's time.
That's what I said. Yeah. Well, injury has kept him out.
Yeah.
Next up, 6-way ladder match to determine the number one contender for the AEW International Championship. Of course, currently your AEW International Champion is the Proto Star, Kyle Fletcher, who is in a match later that evening. So we'll talk about that. But here we go. We've got Jungle Jack Perry, the Beast Mortos, Commander, Speedball Mike Bailey, the returning from Japan, Nick Wayne, and El Clan will be your 6 competitors. One of these competitors will walk out as the number one contender for the AEW International Championship. And listen, I think this could go any of numerous ways. Everybody on this list is definitely is a threat. But I think storyline-wise, I'm going to pick Speedball Mike Bailey because there still is that time with Kevin Knight. I understand Kevin Knight is the TNT champion. However, Kyle Fletcher and Kevin Knight are having a little bit of a feud in the Don Callis family. They're butting heads. Mike Bailey, the former best friend of one Kevin Knight, I think that the story writes itself. So that's my pick for this match. Who are you choosing to be the number one contender for the AEW International Championship?
Jungle Jack Perry.
Oh, going back to the well with Jungle Jack Perry.
Well, it's a bit of a make good because he did come back and everything. It's like, all right, we're going to do something with you right away to show our commitment to you. So a title match would be that. Not to say he's going to win it, but
the last of the 4 pillars to not be world champion. The original 4 pillars, I should say. Yeah. Coming up next, the AEW TBS Championship will be on the line. Your champion, Hikaru Shida, taking on Maya World. And let's be honest, Maya World has set the world on fire. The surprising finale, making it to the final of the Owen Hart Classic this year, only losing to Mercedes Moné, but putting on one hell of a show in the process. Hikaru Shida kind of has had a little bit of a resurgence as a heel. Obviously for a while we forgot she was even around, and then her resurgence as a heel has kind of brought her back. So now we got the question, who's going to walk out of Montreal, the AEW TBS champion? And Miss Sammy, you're in the hot seat first.
Hikaru Shida is going to win here, but I don't think this is the end of this, and I think Maya World ends up with a victory over her in the near future, which would be very fitting. I don't think you win here. You still got to do you're the rookie card, but not for much longer.
I can see this going one of 2 ways. I'm going to say Sheeta's going over because I think that Athena is going to interfere because they've had that little bit of a feud between Athena and Maya World, who was one of her proteges. And I think if anybody's going to dethrone the forever champ, it would be a good idea maybe to have it be Maya World. But then again, where does that leave Athena? But, we'll figure that out some other time. Next up, we got a couple tag team matches back to back, by the way, featuring the Death Riders specifically. But first one we'll talk about tag team extravaganza, where the Death Riders team of Jon Moxley and the number one contender for the AEW World Championship, the Billy Goat, the Aerial Assassin, the winner of the 2026 Owen Hart Cup. That's right, Will Ospreay. And they're taking on 2 of Kenny Omega's best friends, Nick and Matt Jackson, the Young Bucks. Here it is. Interesting match. Obviously, we'll talk about Kenny Omega in the main event. But Will Ospreay's got a match. He's tagging with his mentor as of late, Jon Moxley. You got the Young Bucks there. Obviously, they want to show up and show out for their friend Kenny Omega. I'm not saying that Kenny Omega is setting them up to take out Will Ospreay, but listen, if I was a friend of a friend, I might try to, injure somebody up, if you will, at least slow them down. So I think there's a lot of interesting storytelling here. On one hand, I look at it like this. We've been talking for a while about the Young Bucks taking part in a 4-way dance. Tables, ladders, and chairs possibly at All In. I think that's the fantasy book. I think that I'm telling you, it's probably the most locked thing, I still think. So part of me thinks that the Bucks have to win here to keep the momentum going. Remember, they have been undefeated since we've been talking about this. So I think that the Bucks have to win here. So I am going to pick the Young Bucks, and I'm going to pick the Young Bucks as a miscommunication between Moxley and Ospreay, which will lead to Moxley being like, hey, you can't take your eye off the ball again if you think you're going to beat Kenny Omega at Wembley and keep pushing our final push towards All In. So I'm going to pick the Bucks of Youth to win this one. Miss Sammy, who are you taking?
No, that's kind of my logic with this too, and it's you have the thrown together tag team, and I know they're in a faction together, but they're not a normal tag team. Going up against the tag team, you kind of have to pick the tag team. It just makes more sense if you have the thrown together tag team beating the especially a team as prestigious as the Young Bucks. Like, what are you doing here? So I feel like it's one of those scenarios where the Bucks are going to win. However, the rest of the Death Rider crew gets involved, and there's a massive beatdown type thing or whatever. And that works. It makes sense from a booking standpoint. So it'll be interesting to see how they make this all kind of flow and work. So, but yes, Bucks of Youth.
I'm with you. Next up, I promised 2 tag team matches in a row because next up is for the AEW World Tag Team Championships. Your champions, Cage and Cope, Adam Copeland and Christian Cage, taking on the Death Rider team of Claudio Castagnoli and the Bastard Pac. Once again, we've been seeing this feud go down between Cope and Cage with the Death Riders. They did beat Wheeler Yuta and Daniel Garcia already. So now they're on to the team of Claudio Castagnoli and Pac. It's going to be an interesting one here, but you're in the hot seat first. Who's leaving Montreal? The AEW World Tag Team Champions.
Cope and Cage are. However, if these matches happen to be like back-to-back type deal, you could actually skip this match, because what you could do is you could have the Death Riders come in, beat down the Young Bucks, and then have Cope and Cage come in to actually make the save because of the fact that they're supposed to be wrestling them anyway. And then you could just have a big schmoz for a little while, and then just they don't even do this match. And then that's how the Bucks end up kind of being on the side of decency and good, and they do the ladder match and yada, yada, yada.
I think to get to the match at All In, it's simple here. It's paint by numbers, and still AEW World Tag Team Champions Cope and Cage. However we get there, we get there. I'm just throwing it out there. Next up, AEW International.
It's a time saver. It's a time saver opportunity, Tony Khan. You don't have to do this match.
That's not going to happen. So moving on. The AEW International Championship match is up next, and everyone is banned from ringside. We found this out on Dynamite. As your champion, the Protostar, Kyle Fletcher, takes on Bandito, the Ring of Honor World Champion. Listen, Kyle Fletcher and his one-upsmanship of Kevin Knight saying, hey, you want to go out here and wrestle by yourself? I can do the same thing. I've been doing it longer. I can get the job done. He's going out there with a very capable Bandito. I think it's going to be a tremendous match. At the end of the day, though, I think, and still AEW International Champion Kyle Fletcher. I think that it's just going to be a good match where Kyle Fletcher can get another one up going into All In, where presumably I think we're going to get a little bit of the Don Callis family exploding with Kyle Fletcher taking on Kevin Knight. Maybe title for title. We'll find out. But I think that's where we're headed towards All In. So your thoughts, Miss Sammy?
Yeah, it's a man still situation, but it'll be definitely one of the better matches of the night, though, because we know these two can just go all out.
Absolutely. Next up is a no holds barred match where Tommaso Ciampa will take on the return of the Painmaker, Chris Jericho. So terrible face paint and all, I'm assuming, is coming back. Chris Jericho doing his best Damien 666 impersonation, if you will. This is no holds barred. Miss Sammy.
Which ones were?
Miss Sammy, who's leaving Montreal? The winner of this grudge match.
I don't care because I still want to know which holds are barred and are now not barred in this match. What can you not do that you now can in this?
There's no holds barred.
Well, Jericho he's got the list of how many different holds can he do. So
1,004.
1,004. So out of those 1,004, which ones was he not allowed to do on Dynamite the other day in a match if he participated in it that he can do here? Whatever. Jericho's gonna lose.
He could only use 900 moves. Now he has
which
all
900.
I'm not at the liberty to tell you. If you don't know, you don't know.
You know what? Whatever. Jericho's gonna lose. Yeah, I'm good at that. I was probably out to lunch, Wendy's.
Yeah, Jericho, I think, is going to win this match. Let's just be honest. The Painmaker.
I picked him to lose, so look at that. There you go.
That's fine. The Painmaker's going to take the victory.
Sure, with one of those holds.
With one of the holds, one of the 1,004. That's why he's got too many holds. Now he can use all of them. Next up,
hold them or fold them.
Next up, the AEW National Championship will be on the line. Your champion, Mark Davis, taking on Andrade El Idolo. And of course, this is the first fight back here. Well, I mean, he's had a couple singles matches, but this is the first major strike that Andrade can take against his former faction, that of course being the Don Callis family. Will Andrade walk out national champion? How you know? Miss Sammy, you get to decide that first.
Yes. And no. It's time though. It makes the most sense. Like you talked about the self-implosion of the Don Callis family. Andrade has been nothing but money since he's come back to AEW. It's time for him to get a proper title run. We had speculated top of the card, but the top of the card is pretty full right now. But you do this for a little while and then right back up there.
Well, all I gotta say is how you know. It's gonna be Andrade. It's an easy win here. We got two matches left. We got two matches left, and they will be deciding the big spots at All In. Both of them will. And first up is the AEW Women's World Championship match. Your champion, the Toxic Spider Tekla, taking on the number one contender for the AEW Women's World Championship via winning a casino gauntlet match. That, of course, the returning Willow Nightingale. It was believed by many, including myself and including you, that Willow Nightingale was probably going to win the Owen Hart Classic before getting injured. They called in the reliever, Mercedes Moné. And now we have Mercedes going to All In as the winner of the back-to-back winner of the Owen Hart Classic, I should say.
Yes.
So it is now our time to decide who she's going to face. And I've said this before. This is one of those spots where either person can win, and you can build something really good for either person. I can make an argument for Tekla versus Mercedes Moné, fresh match where you have a lot on the line for All In. And obviously, Willow Nightingale and Mercedes have a storied history so far. They are very tied together. Willow, of course, beating Mercedes Moné more than losing. I am going to say, since I get to go first, that the winner of this match and the new AEW Women's World Champion will be Willow Nightingale, to move Willow Nightingale to take on Mercedes Moné at All In. I am going to be the guy who gets hated here because I think it will be a flip of the title, because I think Willow Nightingale's title reign will last long enough for Mercedes Moné to beat her at All In, to finally become AEW Women's World Champion, because it makes the most sense that she does that over the person that she couldn't beat before. And I think that tells a story. I don't think it hurts Will. And for those people who think that, a month title reign will hurt Willow, it won't. Willow's more over. It won't at all, because the story's there, because eventually they'll have the rematch. You know what I mean? And the story is there. This is one of those times I think you choose a story. Now, granted, if Tekla wins, I'm still excited, because Tekla versus Mercedes Moné is a main event match anywhere in the world at any given time. However, I just think that if you're going into the biggest show of the year, where you already have a great story for your men's main event for the AEW Men's World Championship, you better come correct and have that big of a story for the women's. So far, AEW has showed us that they're invested in doing so. So I think that's the biggest story. Willow versus Mercedes is the biggest story. You can go into the biggest show of the year. Miss Sammy, do you agree, disagree? Who do you think's walking out of Montreal AEW Women's World Champion?
My heart really wants to pick Tekla. It really does. But I think knowing just knowing some of the numbers that came out for ticket sales after the belt switch to Kenny Omega and such, I think you make the swap here as well, and you go with the Willow story. So it's disappointing because I think Tekla really deserves that moment. I think it would have been a really fantastic match, and we might still get it. Just not all doom and gloom yet, but it would move more tickets. Sorry.
I don't think that this hurts Tekla at all. I think we'll still get the
No.
big match with Mercedes for the belt, just not at All In. And I think it'll work out because I think Tekla is still going to play a big role in the All In card.
Maybe
I
she's
think
the
that
referee or something.
Well, right now, they just won those Stardom Trios titles. The Triangle of Madness did. With their deal with Stardom, I would say maybe those belts will be on the line. And I right off the top of my head, can you picture this? Because speaking of being in London, England, what if the Triangle of Madness takes on the Brawling Birds and insert another competitor? But they're both from England, so that would make sense. I'm just saying, I think that you could get a really cool. And by the way, are you telling me that that's a less than match? Tekla, Julia Hart, and Sky Blue taking on, and we can book whoever we want, but taking on Alex Windsor and Jamie Hayter and whoever they have as a partner. Because at that point in juncture, insert whoever the hell you want. And that's hey, what if it's the Zelina Vega? Just saying. World's endless possibilities. And speaking of endless possibilities, that brings us to the main event of the evening, and it will be for the AEW World Championship. Your champion, the best bout machine, the cleaner, the wrestling god, Kenny Omega, taking on the TNT champion, the Jet, Kevin Knight. Oh boy, this is built up quite well. Listen, I've been on the Kevin Knight bandwagon for a long time, so everybody was preaching to the choir. I feel like everybody's late to the party.
Yeah.
And I'm going to throw this out there. Everything that people are seeing now in Kevin Knight, I've been saying for the past couple years, going back to his New Japan run. I said this kid is going to be something special. He's got all the talent in the ring. If he could just find, and this was my quote, if he could just find a little more of it. We can never quantify what it is, right? Because it's different things. Like, he has charisma, he has talent, he has ability. There was just something I thought was missing, that it factor, right?
Well, it's actually easy. It's easy to show the protostar. He's kind of missing that it.
But he's starting to pick it up. I've noticed that lately. I've noticed lately that I used to make fun of him. As I haven't said in a while, and said the man without an aura. That's going away. I'm going to be fair to Kyle Fletcher. He still hasn't found that one missing piece yet. And I don't know what it is. I'm going to be quite frank with you. Even with Kyle Fletcher, I don't technically know what it is, because he's got the charisma. He's got the swagger, if you will. He's definitely got the in-ring ability, and his mic work's not bad. He's not an MJF mic worker, but he's not bad. He gets his stuff across. There's just and maybe that's the it that he's missing, is that little more of entertainment. Kevin Knight doesn't have that problem. Kevin Knight actually can talk. Kevin Knight is good. And this heel run, I think, is what it is. Quite frankly, I think he's been a baby face his whole career pretty much. All of a sudden you turn him heel, and this kid is out here and he's detestable. And I love it. So maybe that was the it. But anyways, I am more excited for this match. Originally, we considered it like, they're kind of just throwing in filler. But then we all started coming around to it over the past weeks, going, well, granted, Kenny Omega is going to win this match.
Yes.
But it's going to be a damn good match, and it's going to be a coming out party for Kevin Knight. So I'm going to you first, but I know we're going to basically say the same thing. Who do you think's walking out the AEW World Champion?
Yeah, no, it's Kenny Omega. That they're not changing that, barring
No,
injury. That is not changing.
even with injury, they probably still have him win just so MJF could get a quick roll up on him on Dynamite if he was injured. And
Right?
nothing against, it's not against Kevin Knight because, like I said before, I think Kevin Knight's going to be in a giant match against Kyle Fletcher at All In. Quite frankly, I think that's
Yeah.
where the writing is on the wall, and I think that match when we were talking about it before, what if the it is Kyle Fletcher being a babyface?
Maybe.
And maybe we find out that the it for Kevin Knight was becoming a heel, which I think it was, and the it for Kyle Fletcher is becoming the baby face, and we probably are going to get that at All In, to be quite honest. And
I'd like to see Kyle Fletcher ditch the suits too. It just comes off a little too stiff for him.
I think he needs to get them a little more tailored. I don't like that he wears big suits. And what I say about that is, listen, I'm going to say it. I'm going to say what we're all thinking. Kyle Fletcher's a damn sexy man. You got a good looking body. You know, this is coming from a happily married man, but I can admit when a guy's got a, looks tremendous. There's no reason there. We know the reason why Sky Blue loves her some Kyle Fletcher. Okay. And that's perfectly fine. Because if I was her, I would love me some Kyle Fletcher too. So my point is that when he wears those bigger suits, it doesn't show off, the physique. I think he's got to get the tailor to bring the suits in, tailor them more so the chest is out a little more, bring them in. I don't think he should be a baggy suit wearer. It's not that the suits look bad. I think that they need to be tailored because he's the kind of guy he should show off his physique.
Yeah, I also think maybe some darker colors would do well for him as well. He can get a little washed out on TV, and he does the bright colors, and then that's kind of a heel thing to do, with the bright colors and such. But something a little more reserved and, like you said, a little more tailored might show a lot better. And in my personal opinion, ditch the tie and such. You just do a 2-button unbutton, a nice button down but 2 undone, no tie or whatever with the blazer. And that would look a little better. Look a little bit more relaxed. Still very highly professional, but a lot more relaxed. And maybe that would help him relax a little bit and start to really build more of that aura. So if you're listening, Kyle Fletcher, there's some tailoring tips from us to you, as you're in a t-shirt and I'm in a tank top, whatever.
Listen, that's okay. It's okay. I complimented. I just told him how sexy he was. I mean, I think that's a great compliment. The appeal is there for sure. Like I said, I just would like to see him like the suits. I think, like I said, a little more flattering, something that like shows off. Because let's be honest, he's kind of almost at that Andrade level when the ring gear comes off and he's in the tights. You got the swooning going on. You can see it happening. So it's not like it's not noticeable.
Yeah, but
he's got a tremendous
physique. Think more evolution, a little more fitted, some grays and darker colors. You have the unbuttoned top.
I know.
Yeah.
I know we've been judgmental about calling him like a second-rate Randy Orton, but maybe taking that evolution era of Randy Orton approach to the dress. Remember, Randy didn't wear the sports coat a lot. He just wore the unbuttoned shirt tucked in and the slacks. I think that once again, I would not be bad about that. I think that would fit him very well.
It would work very well. Yeah.
I think it would work very well with Kyle Fletcher, quite frankly. But anyways, that's I'm with you. Kenny Omega is going to be AEW World Champion. We are not going to drop the ball and fumble the biggest match at All In being Will Ospreay versus Kenny Omega at this point in juncture. As you pointed out, the ticket sales were there. Now people are excited. But I do think this is I don't think this is just a filler match. Like, it is a predictable match. We know Kenny Omega is going to come out on top. However, I think this is going to be another coming out party for Kevin Knight. I think that I think Omega is going to make him look like $1 million. I think that Kevin Knight's going to rise to the challenge, and a star will be, we've already said the star has been made, but I think the star will further be made in this match. So I don't think this match is worthless. I do not think it's just filler. I think there's a lot of cool stuff on the line in this match. And I think that even though Kenny Omega will still be the AEW World Champion, he will also make Kevin Knight take him to the next level as well.
Agreed.
So big bucket of win all the way around. We ask this every pay-per-view. This is a pay-per-view. $40 on HBO Max. If you're here in the States, if you're watching internationally, you have a lot of options, and I'm not sure what they cost because unfortunately I live in the States, right? So with that being said, Miss Sammy, $40. Is this one of those times that you're happy to slap that card down and pay the $40 and sit back and watch a card of wrestling, or are you reserved on this? Where are you at?
I'm a little more reserved on this. I will be slapping down my dollars to watch this, but I am a little more reserved just because the big one is next month. The big one, the big one. So it's tough. A lot of this is just kind of filler. And if you love great wrestling, then okay, yeah. And I do love great wrestling, which is why I'm going to buy into this. But I just AEW's been telling decent stories, and we're just not really totally getting that here. It's a lot of just in between stuff to get to the big one.
I'm gonna slightly disagree. I'm more excited about paying for this one. I think even though, yes, in theory, it is a classic filler pay-per-view, they've done a great job of still making the stakes feel great. And even what we just talked about, even though like a lot of the matches were like, oh, who kind of is going to win? We did you notice every match we really had a little bit of, but there's this story that you can start telling, or there's this story you tell. You know what I mean? Even if we didn't agree on the match, think about it. So every match is really kind of leading to All In, and they're building the story out. And I'm like, okay, I can get behind that. If you look at the Young Bucks, like we said, if they might win that match against Ospreay and Moxley, there's a story that's building towards All In there. The whole Kyle Fletcher thing with Kevin Knight, there's a story that's going to build up from there. Tekla and Willow Nightingale, there's a big time story on the line there. And that one's a real coin flip because you could go either way there. Even though we both picked Willow, once again, it's still a coin flip. And as you go down the card, I once again, exciting wrestling matches. I think if you are into pro wrestling, what happens inside of the 20x20 ring that they use, you're going to never be disappointed with this card. I also think, though, that we are like the road to All In might have started with the Owen Hart Cup, but I really feel like the way that they've, and once again, I could end up being wrong, but let's be honest, AEW has been overperforming for the better part of a year, almost a full year now, and we have been rewarding them as such and saying as such. I think that they're going to continue that overperformance, in my opinion. And I think that is going to lead to the flushing out the stories starting at Redemption for All In. So we'll be on a month-long ride. We already know where some of the stories are. I think the other ones are going to fall right into place starting this Sunday night. So I'm excited for Redemption more than I usually am. And I'm saying this in the nicest way because it is a filler. It's the event before the big event. No matter how you cut, it's a filler event.
Well,
no matter how
TNA is nipping at their heels, according to Eric Bischoff, and that they might be the number 2 wrestling company next year, according to Eazy-E. So you better put out the best show you can, AEW.
I respect Eric Bischoff. I want to start there.
I do. I love it. I love Eazy-E.
Respect Eric Bischoff.
I love Eazy-E.
However, Eazy-E is a scorned lover by Tony Khan. Let's be honest. There's a lot of jealousy and backfighting between the two. Both sides are guilty. Mm-hmm. If you believe right now where we stand on July 23rd of 2026, we even go further. Let's even get more serious. July 20, the year of the month of Julius, the 23rd day in the 2026 year of our Lord. If you believe the TNA is the number 2 company, I've got a bridge for sale. It just happens to be in Brooklyn.
No. Because they will be by next year. They will be. And
I'm still laughing at if you would have said that a year ago, like Miss Sammy, you would have said that a year ago. We were both on the team of that it was a possibility.
Yeah.
This relationship with WWE has ended like it's still going on, unfortunately for them, but it has ended like every other relationship with TNA. It just took longer. They lost everything. What did getting a deal on television cost you? It's that Thanos meme. It cost me everything. They've lost all their top stars, with the exception of the ones that WWE doesn't want.
Yeah.
And as we pointed out, listen, I've been a TNA fan for a long time, and I know the TNA wrestling fans might come at me for it, but I have been so disappointed in the brand since, I don't know, the last 6 months have been rough. And they've gone back to their old ways.
Since they went on TV, yeah.
Yeah. And they've gone back to their old ways. We're bringing people back from the dead. It's going to be not too long before somebody else gets that. Listen,
I love the show Allie alone.
I love Allie. It has nothing to do with Ali, but you couldn't think of a better storyline than that was something they did when they were not booking good television, was killing people off and bringing people back from the dead. This is not something new. It's not against her. It's just a pattern.
They're gonna bring in Aleister Black. Maybe they'll sign Karrion Kross, and those guys will be their main event scene. And everyone that watches TNA saying, "See, I told you they should have been in the main event in WWE." And then in 2 years from now, when their contract's up, they'll go back to WWE to do nothing. And there you go.
Maybe. Anyway, but I like I said, going back to it, I will say this respectfully to Mr. Eric Bischoff: you are insane if you think that the TNA is going to nip at the heels of All Elite Wrestling, because All Elite Wrestling, and I'm sorry, and I know Brian Alvarez also caught heat for this, but I disagree with him as well. AEW has closed some ground. Now, we're not talking about made more money. We're not talking about more households. It's not going to happen anytime soon. But as far as wrestling fans had stopped watching AEW for a while. Okay, there was a big whatever. In the last year, more people are watching All Elite Wrestling. And you know why? I'm going to tell you why. They stopped talking about WWE. They started focusing on AEW. That is the scariest thing if I am right now TKO and World Wrestling Entertainment. In this past year, think about it. There's no, I gotchas and I told you so's. No, they started focusing on storytelling. They already had the in-ring product, and they stopped mentioning the other guys. What happened?
And WWE has also opened the door by just kind of resting on their laurels a little bit and being stuck in
counter-programming
them, bad storytelling,
which makes they feel threatened,
bad booking. Yep. Yeah.
You don't counter-program somebody you don't feel threatened by. That's bottom line.
Yeah. WWE can't put out a better show right now. And there are some people there that are just as or even more talented than AEW in some ways or another. They can't put out a better show from top to bottom. They can't do it. They just can't. I don't think they can anymore.
Physically,
not with the amount of commercials they got to do.
Ready? Firstly, well, it's all because of corporate greed. That's the biggest problem. That's going to be the biggest problem going forward with WWE. We're going to wrap it up here in a second, but I will say this. Yeah. WWE physically could put on an equal show. They have the talent. They have the means. The problem is their booking has not been good, creatively bankrupt. And here's the issue. I will say it here. And we've talked about it before. The biggest reason why is the corporate greed. They're not making logical moves to go after what's best for wrestling and what's best for a wrestling storyline. They're just trying to figure out a way that they can milk John Q. Public a little bit more out of their money. That's what they're doing. That's why there's commercial breaks. That's why even when there's no commercial playing and it just says, we'll be right back. That's why they have everything plastered all over the ring and everything else. And mind you, I'm one of those people who isn't offended that they have stuff plastered on the ring, because listen, I've watched New Japan Pro Wrestling and I've been a fan for a long time. And as long as I can remember, New Japan has had advertisements all over the ring. Okay. It's no big deal. It's nothing that bothers me, but it's telling when New Japan does not put Slim Jim logos on their tables. When it's all about making money and the greed, and you let the creative process be dictated by that, that's how you end up with Pat McAfee being shoehorned into a story he had no business being in. And that's nothing against Pat McAfee. That's all against the people who allowed that to happen. And they're going to find out that the wrestling fans are going to leave. And granted, they're not going to go out of business. There's still going to be plenty of people who grew up watching WWE. But here's the danger of this. When does the fandom start to get younger? When does the fandom start to go, oh, I don't have that nostalgia reason to watch WWE. I didn't watch it with my dad or my granddad or whoever, and I'm not feeling the nostalgia. That is when their ticket is. And if they don't make changes and they don't gain the rabid wrestling fan, they are in jeopardy of that. Not now, it's not going to be today. It's not going to be tomorrow. It's not going to be 5 years from now, but 10 years from now, 15 years from now, that could be a real issue. And granted, somebody go, well, Rich, who cares about 10, 15 years? I don't know. When you're playing the long game, you should care about 10, 15 years. And I'm not saying that's because AEW is going to overtake them. It could. It could not. Who knows? But they're going to lose business either way, whether AEW is there or not.
I think it's very interesting that this whole time WWE has been at the tippy top for the last 26 years. And TNA is still around. There's still the reason to have a TNA. There's still thriving indies. There's still a New Japan. These guys all still do well enough in terms of like a New Japan and stuff. TNA, well, we still don't really understand how that company makes money, but they just don't die. So there is an audience out there that's not 100% invested in WWE. And like you said, that can grow.
Right? You got to figure out how to make your audience grow, because the nostalgia act will go away eventually. That's the problem. And that's what they really rely on. It's not nostalgia because of like the wrestlers, and I'm not making fun of wrestlers' ages. It's nostalgia in the fact that the reason, we all started watching WWE is because, in my case, my aunt and uncle watched it. That's why I started watching. And then I watched it with my kid. And now my kid, so you know what I mean? It becomes a tradition. But at some point in juncture, traditions break. At some point in juncture, you'd have to bring in new fans. You know what I mean? The Attitude Era fan who is finally of that is the ones that are now flaking off of WWE, and they're the ones that became sickos, because that was what they loved back then. And now you have a company who's doing those things, but with better wrestling. So like it's once again, I'm not saying WWE is going out of business tomorrow, because it's not going to happen. It's going to be quite a while, but it is what it is. But I digress. That's another story for another day. We've gone long enough and pontificated long enough. Of course, you're going to want to make sure to get over to fanlightzone.com. Check out everything over there, including the social media links, because I can promise you that Ken M will be putting up social posts live during AEW Redemption this Sunday. So you're going to want to make sure you're following us over there to get those out. And of course, make sure if you are not watching us on YouTube right now, you head over to the YouTube channel and you make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit the notifications bell, so that way you get alerts for whenever we go live or whenever a new video comes out. Of course, hit that thumbs up to help us wrestle the algorithm and keep growing Fanlight Zone's YouTube channel. At the end of the day, though, we will be back next week at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on Thursday, as we are each and every week, talking more pro wrestling. And I can tell you already, next week, we will be running down and recapping AEW Redemption. We will be previewing WWE SummerSlam and anything else that's important on the docket in between. Well, that's going to take up most of the show. But if something else important happens, we always make sure we mention it. So keep your eyes posted and peeled, because we will be back next week for 607 TWS, the Wrestling Show, Thursday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But until then, for myself, for the lovely Miss Sammy, I got to remember it's mirrored. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. And most importantly, later wrestling fan.